against the road with their propaganda, they make people in Africa think that America is paradise. Can you believe that? In 1991, they have people in Africa think that America has no unemployment problems. Everybody's employed. Racism was finished with Dr. King. Everybody's living happily. We just got a few little struggles. And the people who you see who are not working, they just lazy. And when you go to some of these countries in Africa, you start telling people, no, they got 10,000 people in New York City alone live on the streets. They look at you like you're crazy. Why you come with this? They think you're crazy. Because that's what they have been taught to believe. Just like we taught to believe this is our right hand. This is our right hand. That's what they taught to believe about America. Then when they come here and when they get off the airplane, let me tell you what happens. I've heard about this one. You don't get orientation sometimes. When you come from Africa, you get an orientation, and some of the backwards Europeans, they come and tell, hey, stay away from these Africans born here. They call them black Americans. Stay away from these Africans born here. They the offspring of slaves, and they criminals. They rip you off. So they create this division among us. And so that we think we're different than Africans born at home. And sometimes Africans born at home, those born in Nigeria think they're different than Africans born in same South Africa. Those born in Guinea-Bissau think they're different than those born in Senegal. In Guinea-Bissau, where I live, we don't control the television. Portugal, which is a semi-colony in Europe, controlled by America and Britain, Portugal says it donated a television station to Guinea-Bissau. You got to be careful when your former colonial master donates anything to you. Senegal, which shares a border with Guinea-Bissau, is a former French colony and it still is today a neo-colony of France. They don't control their television either. It comes from France, which is controlled by America. On this television in Senegal, they can show troops coming across the borders from Guinea-Bissau, and they can show these Guinea-Bissau troops open fire on the Senegalese first. So now all the people in Senegal say, let's go get them. They think they tough because they did armed struggle and we didn't do one, but we're going to whip them. The same day, the same time on the television in Guinea-Bissau, they'll show a television on the news clip, and they'll show Africans born in Senegal come across the borderline to open fire on Africans born in Guinea-Bissau. And so the masses of Africans in Guinea-Bissau said, those Senegalese, they ain't no good. They all criminals. They just want to fight. They think us more of them. We're going to whip them. We got experience. Da, da, da. So now the Africans in Senegal think that we started it. And those in Guinea-Bissau think they started it. And so now when we come to fight each other over this boundary, which they drew anyway, Africa is just one. It was those imperialist powers at the Berlin Conference, 1884, 1885, that came to divide Africa up like a cake and say this part belongs to France, this part belongs to Spain, etc., etc. Those lines are no good for us. Those lines are their lines. So that what they come to do is make us into this, what we call micronationalism, where we believe we Guineans, and that's it, and they Senegalese, and now we got to go fight them. When we go fight them with guns, we kill each other. The same ethnic groups that exist in Guinea-Bissau exist in Senegal. Mandingus will fight Mandingus, Fulani will fight Fulani, etc., etc. You know how many guns we make in Guinea-Bissau? 0. We don't even make slingshots. So we had to buy all these guns from France, America, etc. You know how many they make in Senegal? Equal. So now they come to buy us from the same enemy, and then we come to kill each other. Mandingus kill Mandingo with guns brought from them. They have a thing here they call the military-industrial complex. That's who runs America. These big corporations, that's who runs it. And so when they have wars, they make a lot of money off that. They sell Camel soup, for example, for $40, screwdrivers, $35, etc. They make all this money, and then and even the uniforms, all that. So they get richer off of this. Then, after thousands of Africans have killed each other, they're going to have these peace conferences. And so now the president of Senegal is going to go meet with the president of Guinea-Bissau. They're going to spend thousands of dollars on this ceremony. They're going to drink their champagne, sign their peace accords and all that, shake hands, peace. Then, you know what's going to happen? They come to find out that the oil that they discovered off the shores of Guinea-Bissau and Senegal was really the issue they were struggling over anyway. So if Guinea-Bissau wins the opportunity to exploit the oil. But Guinea-Bissau doesn't exploit the oil. American corporations, led by Rockefeller and them, will come to exploit that same oil. So America and European imperialists, they gain in the area. First of all, they don't lose any of their children in the war. Secondly, they gain money from the money that we paid them for the guns. Thirdly, they reap the benefits of the oil. And fourthly, they benefit because we fight among ourselves and we slow up the process of African unity. And it's only African unity that's going to destroy imperialism. As big and strong as the Soviet Union was, it could not destroy imperialism. Because imperialism depends on raw resources. The overwhelming majority of these strategic raw resources that imperialism depends on for its very life are found in Africa. That's why Sekou Touré correctly said, imperialism will find its grave in Africa. So as we close, we want to tell you, our job is to speed up the process of destroying imperialism. The only way we will destroy imperialism is by having mass, revolutionary, permanent, Organization. Organization that will go on past your college years. This is our solution. For African people, our job is to have organization for just Africans in America, just Africans in Africa, or for all African people. All African people. We're the same. We're one. They have been telling lies that Africans in Africa don't like you. They love you. I live in Africa. The only thing that will make you tired of my sisters running from them brothers. They all love you. The only thing that will make you tired of my brothers running from them sisters. They love you too. You understand? Africa is your home. Me, I'm not telling you to go back home. I'm not telling you to go to Africa. I'm just telling you a fact. Africa is your home. You're African people. Africa is your home. What you choose to do is up to you. But I will tell you this too. Even a dog knows how to get back home. But whether or not you believe you are African, whether you agree with this thing we're talking about, socialism being our economic solution, whether you agree with us having our own ideology, one thing you must agree with, we're still oppressed. In fact, there are more African men my age in jail now than there were in the 1960s. More African men my age in this country in jail than they're in college. We're worse off now than we were then. We have fewer jobs now than we did during the time of Martin Luther King. They just changed the form. They put Clarence Thomas in front of you, Colin Powell in front of you, and they try to make that a substitute for Martin Luther King. That's a disastrous era. Colin Powell is not great like a Martin Luther King. He's one of the biggest servants of them. Matter of fact, if you don't know anything about their past, you don't have to know anything about the past of Colin Powell or Clarence Thomas. Just the very fact that George Bush and them nominated you lets you know that ain't your man. But check this out. If you agree that organization is your solution and that it's necessary, if you're not a part of the solution, you know what the old folks say, if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If you are not actively helping to build an organization by any means necessary, y'all like to wear these Malcolm X t-shirts, they're so beautiful, by any means necessary. If you are not using your life as a tool to build mass, permanent, revolutionary organization for all African people, which Kwame Nkrumah started, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, if you are not actively involved in the solution, you're just as much a part of the problem as Colin Powell and Clarence Thomas. So we'll have this organization here with us. We have these brothers right here by the door, Brother Sabukwe and Brother Ab. Would y'all raise your hands? These Africans drove all the way up from St. Louis to be with us today. Because they are dedicated to building this organization. They took money out of their pocket to pay for the gas, take time away from their slave wage job to be with us today, to come organize us. You have Africans on this very campus who are working with this organization. Brother Jake, Brother A.B., Brother Gaby, and who else is in the party? Brother Mike. Would y'all stand up? And where's my sister? Oh, there's my sister, Sister Tina. Would you please stand up? Now, these Africans who are living up to their responsibility, and to be free, we must be responsible. With power comes responsibility. We must study. This education, or this miseducation we get here is not leading us to the truth. Sometimes they accidentally give it to you. We got to get it ourselves. We must politically educate ourselves. We're building a mass organization, so we have so many things to study. We be studying all the time. We have literature out here on this table for you to take. Those of you who are interested in joining this party, it's not an act. You don't come sign your name, you're a member. No, don't go sign your name and say, I'm a member of the APRP. Don't do that. We want everybody to be well informed. We want you to sign your name saying that you're interested in joining. Then what we will do is we will arrange a time, a meeting with you. We will give you literature to read. From this literature, you will study and you will come into a collective process, and different people will get their perspectives on what was read. We will give you this background so that when you come to get into a little work study group, what we call work study group, we come to study and to work. Because you know theory plus practice equals consciousness. Theory plus practice equals consciousness. Theory without practice is empty. Practice without theory is dangerous. Like the doctor trying to operate and don't have no theory about medicine. It's dangerous. Or somebody want to drive a car and never had the theory of driving a car. But theory plus practice, work plus study equals consciousness. Revolutionary theory plus revolutionary work equals revolutionary consciousness. So we're calling on you to join the All African People's Revolutionary Party. We're recruiting. Everybody else is recruiting. ROTC was recruiting today. The CIA comes to recruit. Why can't we recruit? But we've gone over our time a whole lot. And what I want to do now is stop and open up for questions and answers. And I thank you very much. Ready for the revolution.
Well, I'm not going to get up here and apologize for running over time because I'm for staying up here all semester long. I'm not learning that much up here at Iowa State anyway. So, so if I could just ask my brother Imani to come on back up here, and the floor is open for questions, and we stay here all night if we want to. So, I mean, it seemed like you had a question a little bit earlier. Oh, okay.
You suggested that if African were raised in China, that he or she wouldn't be Chinese, but African. You said that people who are in the West Indies who identify themselves as West Indian aren't West Indian, but African. Well, I'm a little confused between your thoughts on culture versus race. Could you clarify them? Because the way I heard it from you, you're African because of your race, because of your genetic background, rather than your culture. But I'm not sure if that's true to you, so if you could clarify.
That's a good question. So, what we're saying is that really there's only one race in the world, the human race. And even this question of race, people starting to find different groups in race came from the enemy, the imperialist class. First they divided us up to 3 races, then 4 races, then 30-some races. Now they've got, some people say 100 and some different races. But the question of a society goes back to the culture, goes back to historical origins of the people. When you come to look at any peoples, you come to even deal with the question of identity presupposes a comparison. You can only have an identity when you come to compare yourself with something else. You're called a man because you're compared to another species of human society called woman. Woman, the same thing, comparison. When you come compare this distinct group of people, this society of people that we label African, they've had different names throughout society, but African is what we accept today. This distinct society of peoples have not only biological aspects, historical and social aspects. So that these people born in these Africans are a woman, for example, born in the West Indies, is still a woman. If she goes to Canada, she still remains a woman. So it has its biological aspects also. The societal aspects of it are how a person socialized. If, for example, if I was socialized in a European society as a European, thought to believe that I was a European, Europe was primary to me, then I would be a citizen of the European society. But but biologically, I don't think, biologically, by me sticking out as distinct from that other group that we're comparing ourselves to, that other aspect of human society, that it's not possible for me to be socialized as a European, because I stand out differently than them. So that even in this society, you find some Europeans who grew up in African communities who have a lot of characteristics of Africans, but they're Europeans, because inside of that society where they were being socialized, everybody regards them as a European. So that even, I think Malcolm X, I give you more, that sounded kind of academic. Let me give you a simple example. If a German shepherd leaves Germany and comes to America, it doesn't become an American shepherd. If Malcolm X used to say, if a cat have babies in the oven, you don't call the babies biscuits. Any other questions?
You talk about Cuba's role in Africa, Castro, and in particular maybe what the role is in 1991.
Good question. So Cuba, I know even when we watch the television, as close as Cuba is to America, when they come to give you even the weather, they can have clouds down over the islands of Cuba. They won't say that's Cuba. They'll say they got clouds down there in the Gulf of Mexico. So that what they want to do is to make us to take Cuba just out of our history, because up to 1959, Cuba remained a colony, a neo-colony of America. Just like these American businessmen be going to Nevada and virtually raping prostitutes and gambling and all that. They used to do that in Cuba. During that time, Cuba's 85% African. During that time, the overwhelming majority of Cuban women had been reduced to the role of a prostitute, because this is what she found necessary just to provide for her children. It was difficult to find doctors in the island of Cuba before 1959. But after the revolutionary forces led by Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and many others came to take power in 1959, January 1st, they began to transform the society from an individualist society to a collective society. So that just in 32 short years since 1959, Cuba has an educational system where they educate everybody. They have wiped out illiteracy. They haven't done that in 300 years in America. Or in 70 years, they did more with education in Cuba in 32 years than the Soviet Union did in 70-something years. Now in Cuba, where they used to hardly have doctors, they have more doctors per person than any other country in the world, including America. America's ratio between doctors and population is very low. You know, a lot of your friends want to go to medical school and they don't have enough money to go to medical school. It's not that they're not smart enough to be a doctor. It's a class society. And in a class society, I was looking at a little program on television the other day. They showed this man had this airplane accident. And these paramedics got such highly sophisticated means of technological medical instruments. They brought this ambulance helicopter to the rescue, lifted them up, operated them in the helicopter, took them to a fancy hospital where he had all these fancy x-ray machines, took about 100 shots of his x-rays, and they saved this man involved in an airplane accident. And I was just thinking, I said, you know, in a class society like America, that man wouldn't have gotten anywhere if he didn't have no money. So the people die just because they have money. In Cuba, they have more doctors per person than any other country in the world. And medical care is free. To go to a school like Iowa State University, you know how much you pay for tuition? Zero. Because in a socialist society, collective society, we believe that the resources in the land belong to all the people. The air above the land belongs to the people. So that the gold, the diamonds, or the oil, the water, etc., that belongs to the people. In a capitalist society, they even sell you the water. I don't know what this is I'm drinking. But I know we had to pay for it. So that in these classless societies, to be a doctor, when you go to medical school, you pay nothing. Their philosophy is that the money, the gold, the diamonds, and the oil in the land, this is the people's. It belongs to all of us. So when we come to build a school, we have to hire workers, construction engineers, construction workers, carpenters, etc., brick masons, glaziers, electricians. We use the money from the land, the oil, the diamond money, to pay these workers. So now these workers are getting paid from the money that belongs to the mass of the people. So now we build up all these schools. Now you have to put teachers in there. So how do we pay the teacher's salary? From the resources of the land. So now when you come to go to school, who paid your tuition? Why is it in Cuba and these socialist countries they don't have to pay tuition? The tuition was paid by the resources of the land, which belongs to the mass of the people, not to Rockefeller, DuPont, or Bush, or any of them. You know, Bush's son is a bank robber, right? So then in a classless society, they come to say, okay, now because we have free school, now we got more students going, so we're going to need more schools. So we're going to need more construction workers, more carpenters, more electricians. Now because we got free tuition, we're going to have more students. We're going to need more teachers. We have to hire more teachers, so we have to train more teachers. We have to build more teacher schools. We're going to have free medicine, so we're going to need more hospitals. We have to hire people to build these hospitals. Then we're going to have more doctors because we got so many people. You know, here in America, that's one of the last places you want to go when you get sick, to a doctor, because it costs you an arm and a leg just to get your finger fixed. Matter of fact, just like I got this toothache, right? And I went to the doctor, he said I need a root canal. He said it's going to cost you $250. Now, I have to make a decision. Do I pay my rent or do I go pay the dentist? If I pay the dentist, I have my tooth fixed, I'll be on the street with a good tooth. But in a classless society like Cuba, for example, and Cuba is leading the world today in that area. It's not isolated from the world. It's just that Cuba, they did something different than they did in the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, when they wanted to give people incentive to work, they said, let's give them material incentives. The more they work, because to build socialism, you have to work. In a socialist society, everybody has to work. That's why Rockefeller don't like it. They don't want to work. In a social society, everybody has to work. You work according to your ability, you receive just according to your needs. You understand? So your needs are health care, education, medical care, and the bounties of life. People need vacation. They need rest. In a capitalist society, they work you like a dog. And then when you die, they bury you like a dog. So in a classless society like Cuba, the example Cuba gave to the world is why the Soviet Union was building socialism by giving people material incentives. The great theoretician Che Guevara, that great revolutionary, he came and said, don't give the people material incentives, give them ideological incentives. I talked about these brothers as an example. I said they paid money out of their pocket for gas to come up here. But you know, if you're working for your job, they would have to pay your gas plus give you some money to go. Material incentive. They have ideological incentives. This is what the people were driven by in Cuba, unlike in the Soviet Union. Plus, they organized the masses. They had these mass organizations. In Africa, Fidel Castro came to give a great speech in 1976 to 1,250,000 Cubans, Africans and European people descent and Indians inside of Cuba. He came to tell them that 85% of the people in this land come from Africa, most from Angola and the west coast of Africa. The blood of Africa runs through our veins. That even though Cuba is true as a Latin American island, at the same time, Cuba is a Latin African island. That's where he got his longest cheer. They came to say, if South Africa, those racists are going into Angola, bombing Angola, we're going to send troops back home to Africa to help our brothers and sisters in Angola. And they helped them come about with smashing victories in Angola till they ran the South Africans out of Angola. Also, Cuba, in the country I live, Guinea-Bissau, during the time of the armed struggle, they sent some soldiers up there to help train the troops. Plus, Guinea-Bissau and other countries would send their students to Cuba. They have an island they call Island of the Youth to study, to train them to become doctors, nurses, etc. Plus, Cuba, because they have so many doctors, they send doctors to places like Nicaragua, Guinea-Bissau, Angola to help cure the people. These are just some small examples of the contribution Cuba has made to Africa and to the world and to humanity. But I know on TV they all the time try to make it, and especially with these Panamanian gangs ahead, all they're going to do is try to find the worst aspect to exploit about Cuban society. Like they show you people waiting in line, like y'all didn't have to wait in line when you hit the register. Like you don't have to wait in line when you go to the grocery store, for example. They're going to show you somebody say, look, people in Cuba have to wait in line. And they ran out of bread in the bread factory. Like the bread factories don't ever run out of bread here. Brother, you had your hand up. Oh, you didn't have your hand up? I'm sorry. Questions?
That will take 2 more questions, because the thing is that play, so those who have tickets can proceed to their maintenance show.
Okay, so we have 2 more questions. Who wants to ask those 2 questions? Yes, you, my brother. And what about the other? Who wants to ask the last one? You're going to ask this one first, but who's going to ask the last one? Let's get down again. All right, you got it.
I just want you to kind of, you've given people Amilcar Cabral, Sekou Touré, and Kwame Nkrumah. Just give us what you found to be some of the negatives.
The positive and the negatives?
So you gave us the positive.
I didn't even hardly touch on the positives.
Great leaders, great leaders.
Okay.
We know they had that thought.
Okay, so you just want me to, because that could be a whole seminar. First, let me tell you one positive of this comment about, he wants to know, he said, I gave you the positive of these great leaders, Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, Tatina Silla, Amilcar Cabral. I said I just touched. I didn't even hardly touch on their positives. I could sit up here and talk all night about Kwame Nkrumah alone and still be insufficient. But some of the negatives that I think that Amilcar Cabral came to discover he made in Guinea-Bissau was, during the time of the armed struggle, they had to pick up the guns. They didn't want to. They had to. They asked the Portuguese, please give us our freedom. The Portuguese said, bow, bow, bow. So they said, okay, we got to pick up the guns. So when they picked up these guns, Cabral said, we must politically educate these people while we are shooting so they know why they're shooting. Put the ideology in front of the gun instead of the gun in front of the ideology. Because sometimes in an armed struggle, the same people who will be your allies fighting against that external enemy will be your enemies when you come to reconstruct the nation. The error they made was they didn't form work study groups inside of the mass party that still is in power. So that they didn't have, ongoing political education with the masses. So that some of these people who pose as leaders during the armed struggle now are exploiting the people. If they had had this ongoing, constant political education through these little groups of work studies all across the country, we would have been able to pick out our enemies quicker and neutralize them at least. Sekou Touré, I think that the biggest error that he made, in my opinion, his biggest weakness, was that even though he used the People's Revolutionary Republic of Guinea to help Africa move forward, even when Kwame Nkrumah was overturned by the CIA in 1966, they made Kwame Nkrumah co-president of Guinea. So Guinea had 2 presidents at the same time, Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré. A great step for Pan-Africanism. The weakness that they had, I think, was they didn't use their resources to build mass organization for all of Africa. They built mass organization for Guinea-Conakry and did a great job with it. That's why the conscious level of the people was high there, and that's why you see the people rising up even up to this very day. Kwame Nkrumah came to criticize himself in his book. Kwame Nkrumah wrote many great books, and you should read them. They have many of them in your libraries. Kwame Nkrumah said the biggest mistake he made in Ghana was that he didn't go all out for socialism from the very beginning. He waited. And as he waited, when he was building socialism, right when they got to the point where they were beginning to implement their 7-year plan to build socialism, was the same year that America went and overturned them with their filthy pigs, the CIA. So I think those are their biggest weakness in the area of not using all of the resources to organize the masses of African people worldwide. They positives. That's so many. Last question. My brother in the back. A West Indian is an indigenous person born in that land. Because the reason that we call it the West Indies in the first place is because of a lost person by the name of Christopher Columbus, who thought he was going east but came west, thought he was in India but he was in America, what we call the American Hemisphere. But at that time it was called by different names, just like Africa used to have different, empires. We had large, Africa went from the individual to the family, to the clan, to the tribe, to the nation, to the empire like that, and was getting ready to get to continental unity. Yes, that's it. That's where the name comes from. Christopher Columbus thought he was in India, so he called the place India and called the people Indians. So since it's not the real India and it's in the West, they said, well, let's call it West India. No, I'm saying the people, we accept to call the peoples, the indigenous people's name, we accept to call them Indians. It's true, that's what we call them. But it's an incorrect name. They're called Indians because Christopher Columbus thought he was in India. Some of us make mistakes with that, Some Africans here who say that their great-grandmama was an Indian, they really talking about the indigenous people of this land. They say, I guess I better go to India to research my history. So the people like you who are born in the West Indies are Africans. It's simple as that. Okay, we thank you very much. We have our table outside.
One quick announcement. Remember, we have a concert at the M Shop, the World Citizens. Tickets are $5 at the door. Thank you very much. What's next? Probably medical school. School. That's cool. Oh, you want to give him money? Yes, go see him money.
Imani na umoja.
Yes, togetherness, yes. We have a concert at the M Shop. Yeah, we're trying to, right now it just started. $5.
The only African
You don't take it in there, he's going to get that one ticket free. So go get one ticket. I'll wait until I talk to you today. I want to see Rolly. You guys go down there.
We'll let you know. So we can get in touch.
Maybe you have a pen.
No, that's what I'm asking for.
Here. You want some love paper too? All right. You can have that.
Okay, sure. I'll be there.
I got the money.
Don't worry about it. Give you a pen back.
Okay.
contact me here. My
All right.
So you get in touch with me. Let me get your number.
Everybody go to the M shop to the regular address.
Concert at the M shop. Other people.
Everybody go to the M shop. Everybody go to the M shop. Tickets are $500. $500.
Concert at the M shop, $5.